Nestled in the rolling hills east of San Francisco lies a stretch of California known as the Tri-Valley. It includes the cities of San Ramon, Danville, Dublin, Pleasanton, and Livermore. On the surface, this region looks like any other affluent Bay Area suburb. Manicured neighborhoods, award-winning wineries, good schools, quiet streets, but the Tri-Valley is sitting on something old, something restless. And if you ask the people who have lived there long enough, many of them will tell you they have seen things they cannot explain. To understand the haunted nature of the Tri-Valley, you have to understand its history. Because this region did not begin as a quiet suburb, it began as a killing ground. In the 1850s, the city was called the most desperate town in the West. Main Street in those years was home to brothels, gambling halls, and bandits. The valley was a favored hideout for outlaws during the California Gold Rush, owing to how thinly populated and isolated it was. Sickness, shootouts, and violence inside its 19 documented bars led to an extraordinary number of violent and untimely deaths for such a small settlement. The lawlessness was not unique to Pleasanton. According to local historian Ken McLennan, the curator of Pleasanton's Museum on Main, the neighboring area then known as Ladsville, which later became Livermore, shared the same brutal reputation for the same reasons blood soaked into this soil long before suburban development arrived to cover it over. And according to a great many residents, it never fully dried. In the heart of what is now Pleasanton's downtown, several specific locations have accumulated decades worth of reported paranormal activity. The building at 855 Main Street, currently home to a gastropub, stands on the foundation of one of Pleasanton's original hotels. According to local historical accounts, in 1870 an unnamed woman was stabbed to death in the upper hallway of that hotel by a jealous customer. The killing occurred just to the right of what is now a large decorative mirror. Since at least 2015, during the Museum on Main's annual Halloween Ghost Walk tour, that mirror has repeatedly captured something that the naked eye cannot always see. Multiple photographs taken by different people have shown a shadowy female figure near the mirror. In 2015, a face appeared to be looking out from the mirror's corner. The following night, a different photo captured an unexplained shadow in the same spot. In 2016, the figure appeared again, this time during daylight hours. In 2017, a San Leandro resident named Bill Pinto photographed what appeared to be a long, dark silhouette standing some 15 feet back in the reflection. Museum officials confirmed that those on the ghost walk often report sudden, unexplained chills at that precise location. The building, now known as the Gay 90s Pizza Company, contains a mirror with the word "boo" reportedly embedded permanently inside the glass. Witnesses have claimed to see the apparition of a woman, described as a former brothel owner, looking down from the window above the main entrance. The Blue Agave Club, a short distance away, was featured in 2014 on ABC's 20/20 as one of the most haunted properties in the city. Staff there have documented objects being moved without explanation and recurring unexplained sounds throughout the building. Below the streets of Pleasanton itself runs an old tunnel built by Chinese laborers in the late 19th century, originally used to move goods between buildings and to allow movement through town after curfew. Reports say the tunnel is now filled with the presence of those who once used it. Just north of Pleasanton sits the city of Dublin. It is here that one of the Tri-Valley's most unusual paranormal reports originates. Not a human figure, not a shadow on a mirror, but a dog. The Dublin Pioneer Cemetery at 660 Donlan Way was established in 1859, and it holds many of the region's earliest settlers. Among them is a man named Tom Donlan, the first person formally buried on the property, who died after falling from the roof of the adjacent church. According to city officials, witnesses over the years have reported seeing a ghostly hound dog roaming the cemetery grounds. The dog is believed to have belonged to one of the pioneer dead. The Bay Area Paranormal Society conducted a formal investigation of Dublin Heritage Park and Museums, which includes the cemetery and the historic Old St. Raymond's Catholic Church. During that investigation, the team reported that their instruments collected unusual sound readings inside the church. Among those sounds was what they described as the voice of a playful child, clearly audible inside the empty building. The city of Dublin itself formally acknowledges the paranormal history of the cemetery and hosts guided flashlight tour through the grounds each year, with a version of the tour restricted to older teens and adults for late-night departures. 5 miles south of Livermore, along Arroyo Road, sits what is now Camp Arroyo. It is a youth camp operated by the Taylor Family Foundation in partnership with the East Bay Regional Park District. Visitors today find cabins, a swimming pool, and a ropes course. But beneath that camp, literally beneath the soil, lie the foundations of something far older and far darker. The Arroyo del Val Sanitarium opened in 1918 on approximately 160 acres of remote wooded land. It was built to house patients suffering from tuberculosis, a disease that at that time had no reliable cure. The main treatment philosophy of the era was rest and fresh air, and so patients were brought here to wait. Many of them waited until they died. In its 42 years of operation, the sanitarium housed hundreds of patients. Alameda County took over operations in 1925. A separate children's ward called the Del Val Preventorium opened adjacent to the main facility in 1923 and was eventually absorbed into the larger complex. By 1959, only 148 patients remained. The facility closed on the order of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors in August 1960. The last patients were transported to Fairmont Hospital in San Leandro. What followed was decades of abandonment. Heavy rains collapsed upper floors, windows were knocked out, buildings were burned down by vandals. The ruins sat largely forgotten until the grounds were acquired by the East Bay Regional Park District in 1989. The old buildings were demolished in the 1990s. Camp Arroyo was constructed on the remaining land, but the foundations remain, and locals say the dead remained with them. Reports from area residents describe the ghostly figures of former patients still moving through the surrounding woods. The most persistent campfire legend, which has circulated among generations of Tri-Valley residents, holds that at some point during the sanitarium's operation, a deranged groundskeeper went on a murderous rampage through the children's ward before taking his own life. There is no verified historical documentation of this event, but the stories of strange sounds and wandering apparitions near the old foundations have been told and retold for decades. And at the center of it all is a figure that keeps appearing, tall, impossibly thin, moving through bedrooms in the dead of night, standing at the foot of beds, watching. They call him the skinny ghost. The reports come from multiple independent witnesses and all centered in San Ramon. The accounts are strikingly consistent. A couple woke in the middle of the night separately on different occasions to find a tall, bearded man standing at the edge of their bed. He was wearing a long trench coat. He was not moving, he was simply staring down at them. Another woman reported waking to a sight even more disturbing. A tall, skeletal figure stood in her room, crying, his hands covering his face. As she watched, frozen, a rope began to loop itself around his neck. A different account describes a parent whose child had chased a tall, thin figure through the house. The child reported being kicked hard in the chest by the entity and was in pain for days afterward. And then there is the hallway account. A resident woke to the sound of footsteps in the corridor outside their bedroom. They opened the door to investigate. At the far end of the hallway, an unusually tall figure was descending the stairs. It turned its head. It looked directly at them. It smiled. These are not the reports of a single individual with an overactive imagination. Multiple people in multiple homes across San Ramon are describing the same apparition. Tall, thin, bearded. Wearing a dark coat, sometimes weeping, sometimes smirking, and always in every account undeniably present. No one knows who this figure was in life. No one knows what keeps him bound to the residential streets of San Ramon. But the consistency of the witness descriptions suggests that whatever is roaming those neighborhoods, it is not random. It knows where it is going. What is particularly striking about these accounts is their physical specificity. Witnesses are not describing vague mists or half-seen shadows. They are describing a man, a specific man, tall, thin, bearded, a long coat. He has a face. He has expressions. He cries, he smirks, he kicks, he watches. The Danville region has produced its own recurring apparition. A witness described attending a 4th of July parade with her grandfather when she noticed a girl standing nearby, staring at her. The girl said she was lost. The witness took her by the hand, led her to her grandfather, and began to explain. Her grandfather asked what girl. When the witness turned around, the girl was gone. Other witnesses in the area have reported encounters with what appears to be the same figure at nearby locations. Another witness reported seeing what appeared to be the same girl near a different Danville location in 2014. A region this densely populated with reported paranormal activity, with this many independent witnesses covering this many distinct locations across multiple cities, demands some consideration of why. The land that is now the Tri-Valley was home to the indigenous Olón people long before Spanish missionaries arrived in 1772. The first mission in the region, Mission San Jose, was not established until 1797, and the decades that followed brought enormous upheaval to the indigenous population. Death, displacement, and cultural destruction moved through these valleys long before any gold rush outlaw ever fired a shot. Then came the bandits, the brothels, the bloodshed of the 1850s and 1860s. Then a tuberculosis hospital where thousands suffered and died in isolation on a hillside south of town. Then the rapid suburban development of the latter 20th century, which paved over all of it. Homes built on ground that had soaked up grief for generations. Paranormal researchers have long theorized that certain locations accumulate energy from traumatic events, and that under the right conditions, that energy persists. The Tri-Valley, whatever one believes about the nature of ghosts, has the historical record to support the idea that trauma lived here in abundance. There is one final detail about the skinny ghost worth noting. Of all the paranormal reports across the Tri-Valley, most describe entities that appear passive. A dog that roams a cemetery, a woman who drifts across a mirror, voices in a church, shadows in a hallway. The skinny ghost is different. He made physical contact. A child who chased him was kicked hard enough to be in pain for days. He doesn't simply exist in the periphery. He is aware. He responds to being watched. He responds to being followed. That makes him something slightly different from a residual haunting, which paranormal investigators describe as a kind of recording, an event that repeats with no awareness of the living. The skinny ghost appears to see you. He turns his head, he makes eye contact, he smiles. That is a different category of encounter entirely. Whatever he was in life, and there is no confirmed identity, no death record attached to him, no name, no story that has surfaced in the historical record, the man in the trench coat has made San Ramon's residential streets his territory. Multiple families in multiple homes have woken to find him standing in their rooms. If you live in the Tri-Valley and you wake in the dark to the sound of footsteps in the hallway, there is a well-documented tradition in this valley of not opening that door. And if you do open it, and if you see a tall, thin figure looking at you with a slow, unhurried smile, you will understand exactly why the stories keep getting told. Subscribe to Paranormal Depths for the strangest and most compelling cases from around the world.